Every iconic creepypasta ever has the grammar and storytelling abilities of an edgy 12-year-old who just so happened to publish their beautiful work of art online. These stories were discovered, read, shared, appreciated, despite being, well, low quality. Well, what about the stories that were written by that same demographic but never ended up getting published? The works that, rather than living in infamy forever, just rot in somebody's old Google Drive. Well, I have one such story for you today, and while it may not be scary, it's scarily bad. So let's get into it. For as long as the world knows, elves have always lived together in the Marvelous Kingdom. But exactly 97 years ago was the horrible Elf War I, and it ruthlessly ripped all the types of elf kinds apart. Murder elves, luckily, did not yet exist then, so the only victim was the king, King Marble. Every different type of elf made a nice village of their liking and simply lived there. 55 long years later, the very first murder elves were born to a mermelf and a liar elf who were secretly dating. Hey, okay, some world building, we love that. And in case you didn't quite catch it, because we were so just thrown into this magical world, there's different types of elves here, specifically like different species, and each one has different powers. And they all lived together until the war drew them apart, and there was only one victim in that war. Anyways, we are introduced to about 3-ish elf types, even though I think there's about 10 if I remember correctly. Lore dump! Mermaid elves, they have the power to control water, and they can swim and breathe underwater. Liar elves, I think they're just like super convincing. That's like their power. They can tell you, oh, the sky's green, and you'd be like, okay. And finally, murder elves, but we'll get more on those later. Quickly reproducing, the murder elves made a whole village in just 10 years. They lived peacefully for another 5 short years until they finally discovered their horrid power. Murder! Right about then, they all became evil, really wanting power and strength, even though they all knew they were already the most powerful. They started carefully planning for a new war with all types of elves to receive what they wished for. There was just one little drawback for them. They sometimes went completely out of control, doing anything to get their goal. Of course, they first targeted their strongest enemies, the fairy elves. They planned and planned thoroughly for almost 10 years until finally making a plan they all loved. They were to attack at night on New Year's Eve, which was in 3 days, as they knew that the fairy elves would be too busy celebrating to notice anything. Okay, so this is a short but loaded story, so do beware of that. As I said, some information on these murder elves plotting to take over the world. Can we be any less original? Come on. I like that I provide the exact years between every plot point. How long they took to reproduce, how long they took to plan, which 10 years to plan out their attack, which is just go on New Year's Eve. You had 10 of them. Let's keep reading though, maybe they'll become super smart. After those 3 slow days passed, all murder elves sneaked into the fairy elf's forest-surrounded village. They were right about the elves celebrating New Year, all too happy to notice the enemies coming close. 3, 2, 1, attack! Commanded the murder elves' commander, and they did. All the elves celebrating unfortunately died, which was the whole village but 2, Mel and Alex Maker. They both stayed home because Mel was giving birth, and Alex, as her supportive husband, was with her to help. When the couple heard the blood-curdling screams going on outside, they understood it was not safe for them there. Mel, gathering up all her little strength, and Alex, finding his courage, both flew out the window into a nearby dense apple tree they planted specifically for emergencies like this. Finally, Mel gave birth there to a beautiful female fairy elf. After a small argument, the parents named the baby Arena. When they heard the loud footsteps of murder elves, they quickly ripped a leaf off of the tree they were in and, making a pen teleport to them from their house, scribbled out the girl's name. With quiet sobs, Mel and Alex put in all their power into creating a single spell. So baby Arena, along with her name leaf, flew really high into the sky to the nearest village where she would be safe and loved. And it did happen, but no one ever saw the parents again, so they were presumed dead. Wow, what an action-packed war scene we got. Truly shows how degenerate and ruthless these murder elves are by not describing anything. Anyway, here we finally meet our main character, Arena. During the 17 long years until now, Arena was found in the Noise Elf village by Ella and Lex Lambert, who adopted her, thinking it was fate which brought them all together. Being pregnant, Ella gave birth to a baby boy named Jack a week after adopting Arena, making them a happy family. Arena was told she was her blood family and a Noise Elf. Arena is now 17. She has learned to accurately imitate sounds like the noise elves, but unlike noise elves, had wings and some magical powers. Yet, she never even dreamed about being a whole different elf type. Just really, really special. Some would say she's not like the other girls. But seriously, how do you not suspect anything when you've got like fucking wings and magical powers? Buddy. And nobody else suspected anything either, huh? That there's just this elf with wings. I also don't like the fact that she like learned how to imitate noises just like the noise elves did, because that makes their power learnable, which is like the lamest power ever. And to be fair, just imitating animal noises is pretty lame in of its own right, but although I'd hope if Arena had wings, magic, and couldn't imitate just like her family, she'd maybe catch on then. Also, Arena was raised to love exploring. She and her brother Jack sometimes spent days in the forest. That pretty much led to the two knowing the forest inside out, including all the animals, which they of course named. Once in a while, Arena's best friend Hasina joins, so she also knows the forest pretty well too. But that one particular evening, when Arena was going home after dark from a little forest trip alone, she fell into a hole. Because there was water, her wings got wet and she couldn't simply fly out. That was when she saw some shadow swimming up to her. The shadow was a merm elf named Shelly Sand. She had always been the best swimmer in the village, and as most merm elves were evil, so was she. Shelley always wished for a pair of fairy elf wings, and now she saw a chance. Shelley Sands? What kind of J.K. Rowling ass naming system is that? How did Shelley Sands know that Arena's a fairy elf? How come Shelley Sand gets to know, but the people in the Noise Elf village don't? Some not very good writing here, surprisingly. Surprisingly, very unexpected. Jack! 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 Yelled Arena. Everyone is asleep. They won't hear you, laughed Shelley with an evil grin on her face. As quick as lightning, Shelley took Arena's wings. Swimming to her village, she filled up the hole with water so Arena could get out. Then she got the water out, making it a plain hole and quickly regretting she let the girl out. The whole night, Arena spent crying and sobbing about her stolen wings. Almost all her uniqueness was gone. When the village woke up, she told her family and friends about what had happened last night. Then she fell asleep after her tiredness finally caught up with her. While she was sleeping, Hasina and Jack went to the forest. Everybody thought it was to explore like they always did, but no. Hasina and Jack worked the rest of the day and half of the night until they at last finished what they were working on. When Arena finally woke up, Jack and Hasina were standing with huge fool grins on their faces. What are you two up to? Arena questioned them. Can we show you something, please? Asked Hasina. All right. I guess I have nothing better to do, answered Arena, and got up to follow them. Jack and Hasina led Arena into the forest. They walked for about 20 minutes until Arena saw something misshaped by a tree. When they walked over to it, it looked like a pile of firewood painted black and stuck together with wires and glue. This is the air sorcerer. You need to get into this bin, press the button in front of you, and it will lift you up exactly 5 meters off the ground, explained Jack. That's honestly pretty sweet of them, even though it does not compare to wings at all. But also 5 meters tall is tall as hell. I think when I wrote this, I didn't know how tall a meter was, so I just put it arbitrarily. And how did these two kids build something like that in a day and a half? I couldn't do that, and I'm supposed to be like studying engineering or whatever. Wow, you guys, how did you manage this? Cried Arena. I am so thankful to have you two. After a really big group hug, Hasina exclaimed, Arena, go try it out. All right, answered Arena, getting into the big bin. 3, 2, 1! Arena happily yelled and pressed the big white button right in front of her. Vrrrr, the machine said while quickly lifting up Arena into the air. Woohoo! She screamed as she looked down at Jack and Hasina. It worked! You guys are the best! Press the button to get back down. Oh, and also this has wheels, so you can move it around, instructed Jack. Oh my gosh, I just got the best idea in the whole wide world, gasped Arena. What is it? Asked Jack and Hasina at the same time. We should wheel this thing around so we can get my wings back. I am sure the Mermelf village is nearby, announced Arena. No, we have never been further than the village's forest. We don't know what awaits us out there. We might even die, protested the other two friends. That means we will soon find out. It'll be our biggest adventure. Come on, guys. Are you really that scared? It will be fun. I'm going anyway. You can decide yourselves. Oh, fine, agreed reluctantly the two other friends. That night, at exactly 12:00 a.m., the friends met up by the air sorcerer. They all had their most important things with them. They were running away. All right, let's go, whispered Arena, and they set off. They put their bags into the air sorcerer's bin and all together pushed it into the direction with less trees so the air sorcerer had space to roll. At last, the three adventurers got out of the forest and saw a huge plain along with other villages surrounded by what the occupiers liked. There! That village is the Mermelf village. It must be, since it's salt water except a small island in the middle, reasoned Jack. Yes, most likely, agreed the other two. But are we sure we want to do this? Doubted Hasina. Yes, was the answer. Woo! I feel so excited, whispered Arena as she was getting into the air sorcerer's bin. All right, your task is to find Shelley. If she is flying, show a thumbs down and wait until she lands. When she does, give us a thumbs up and lower yourself, instructed Jack. Brrr, the machine said again, lifting the excited Arena up into the sky. When it stopped 5 meters above the ground, Arena immediately saw Shelley flying above the water, showing her tongue to the other mermelves. Arena gave her friends a thumbs down and waited for Shelley to land. Shelley was meant to be one of the villains of the story, along with the murder elves, obviously. But honestly, that's kind of icon behavior. She's like girl bossing, getting what she wants, and then she's taunting it. Finally, an hour later, Shelley landed to sleep. Arena gave a thumbs up and lowered herself like Jack told her to. Then they sneaked out of the forest. After inflating their inflatable boat, they quickly but carefully swam over the water to the island where Shelley was sleeping to not get the wings wet. Rip! And the wings were ripped off. A couple moments later, Arena was in the air laughing from happiness. At last, I am where I want to be, she laughed. Then she landed and added, You guys are the best people ever. Unfortunately, because her wings weren't made out to be a big part of her character before, this whole journey and resolution did not hit as hard as it could have, maybe. It wasn't given any stakes whatsoever of how her life would change if she didn't get these freaking wings back. 3, 2, 1, attack! Suddenly came from behind them. The friends turned around and saw an army of elves, looking really mean. Alright, so unfortunately that's going to be all we're going to be reading today. I had to split this into 2 parts because this is a bit of a longer story and I have a lot to say about it. We still have our whole Murder Elves arc, the creatures who killed Arena's parents. You're going to want to stick around for part 2 next week. Please comment down below any predictions you have for how the story is going to end or what's going to happen. And otherwise, my name is Sawyer, and I am saying bye-bye!